The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Finance. Did the Minister of Māori Affairs discuss with him how the Crown would meet its treaty obligation with respect to the mixed ownership model?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, the Minister of Māori Affairs has discussed that issue frequently with myself, and those discussions this year, the most significant of those was earlier in the year when the Minister of Māori Affairs discussed with myself and other ministers the need to carry Section 9 from the SOE Act into the Public Finance Act in order to retain the obligation of the Crown to meet its obligations under the treaty. It's our view, of course, that the part sale of shares in these companies does not compromise the government's treaty obligations or its ability to settle any particular claims that have been put forward.
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, is the Minister satisfied with the assurances of the Minister of Māori Affairs regarding protection of Article 2 treaty rights, and did his advice contradict that of water claimants who met with the Minister?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, if the Minister means did the Minister of Māori Affairs seek assurances about the Crown's intention to protect Article 2 treaty rights, then he certainly did, and those assurances have been given. In fact, the government has gone to considerable lengths to ensure that it fully understands those rights, partly on the encouragement of the Māori Party, and to assure itself and the Māori Party and claimants that the sale of shares won't compromise the government's ability to protect those Article 2 rights. I would assume that the Minister of Māori Affairs has passed on those assurances to water claimants, and I know in a number of cases those claimants are keen to get on with discussions with the Crown to have their claims resolved and are not participating in the action in the tribunal and are not threatening subsequent court action because they believe discussion with the Crown is much more likely to see their claims resolved.
Supplementary question, the Honourable Parakura.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister. Did the Minister of Māori Affairs receive Crown law advice regarding the effect of the treaty clause in the mixed ownership model legislation and its ability to protect Māori interests in water?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, you'd need to ask the Minister about that. In my experience, the Minister of Māori Affairs doesn't always agree with Crown law advice and often takes a more assertive approach to ensure that whatever the legal advice, the government is fully recognises Article 2 and Article 3 rights, and that it's committed to protecting those rights. And in fact, I think along with any number of claimants are starting to see that working directly with the Crown over those rights can be a more constructive process of settling them than going through the courts and opening up potentially years of litigation over some novel legal concepts that may not ever be resolved.
The Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr Speaker, what was Government's response to advocacy from the Minister of Māori Affairs that shareholders of enterprise should do nothing to prevent the Government from meeting their obligations under the Treaty of Waitangi?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the Government's response to the Minister may not have been completely satisfactory to him, but that's part of the healthy discussions in a coalition. The Minister was seeking legislation that the Crown bind the private shareholders in the same way as the Crown is. We decided not to do that. As the member may be aware, the fundamental treaty obligations are between iwi and the Crown, not private shareholders, and the Crown assumes all the obligations of meeting whatever flows from the settlement of claims with respect to water or these assets or any other assets that claimants might succeed in obtaining.
Question number 6, Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr.